Hello and welcome to the Prosperous Musician, where we talk about making money in music. And my name's Spence, and welcome to another of these daily videos. And if you tuned in yesterday, you will have seen that we were talking about how to get free PR. Now, if you're a musician, if you're an artist, if you have an album ready to go, if you have a single launch, if you have a new video, if you have a tour, if you have some new merchandise, if you've written a new song, if you've got a new member of the band, if you've been offered a record deal, if you've been dropped from a record, if something has happened in your career that's of note, then you need to let people know about that. Now, I'm using this example as, let's say you've got an album or a single launch. So we're keeping it in that context, but really it could be anything you like. So really what I wanted to talk to you about is a few things today. I want to talk to you about how to get the free PR. Just to recap yesterday, if you watch yesterday's video, it's called How to Get Free PR. And this is part 2, so it's just how to get free PR. I'm going to undo this a sec. It's a bit tight. And have a look at that, and it tells you the importance of going through the local paper. And it's probably not what you think it is. It's not, the reasons aren't why you think you should go through the local paper. There's a number of opportunities. There's a number of benefits to getting your press, getting yourself and your art featured in the local paper. And it talks all about that in yesterday's one. So go back and have a look at that. But today we're going to look at the press release. Now, yesterday I was online, a lovely lady called Lynn. That's an alliteration, hard to say if you've got false teeth. Lovely lady called Lynn was viewing, and she commented and said that she'd be interested in hearing about how to do a press release. So that's what I'm going to do, how to do a press release. Now, I've just realized that actually I can't do it live because you can't see my screen, which I've just realized that that's the case. So I really needed to do a pre-recorded video for that. So what I need to do is insert that into this video, if that's possible. Not sure if it's possible, but anyway, let's have a go, eh? So I'm going to look at my page here, which you can't see, and yeah, I think what I'm going to need to do is I have to do it on a separate video, I think, because I'm new to all this, the YouTube Live, what it can do and what it can't do. But just to recap, I'm going to give you a couple of extra tips around the newspaper theme. Now, here's another extra tip if you've got a local paper. Now, how about approaching them? Now, have you ever seen one of those advice columns in the newspaper or in a magazine where people write in and ask questions? You must have seen them. It's usually a doctor or a psychologist often. And then experts answer the questions. So it's like a Dear Deirdre kind of, can be agony aunt or an expert on this or an expert on that. It's often things like relationship specialists who help men and women with love problems, or property investors who answer questions about how to buy and when to sell. It's generally anything that people are interested in. But if you can get a column like this, it would bring a load of clients in, wouldn't it? If you would bring a load of new fans in. If you were offering a music service, if you were playing gigs, potentially new clients. If you're selling music, if you're doing a tour, if you're an artist, then it would bring new fans in, wouldn't it? Because what it does is establish your credibility as an expert and being recognized as an authority. Now, that might sound a bit dry if you're an artist, but if you think about it, anyone who's in the press or on the TV gets kind of looked up to, and people trust them because they must be trustworthy if they're in the paper, right? Although we know that's not always the case, but that's the perception, right? So have you ever thought about doing that yourself? Now, it might sound a bit far-fetched, but think about it. If you're starting local with a local paper, they might be absolutely crying out for something like that because it's something they might not have thought about. So what you need to do is, again, like getting your face in the paper or getting your work in the paper, you need to contact the editor, you need to speak to them and prepare your pitch beforehand. Write down what you're going to say, how you're going to say it. And you could do it in the form of a press release, which we're going to be talking about a bit more in a bit. So speak to them, send like kind of like a sales letter which explains all the benefits that they're going to get from it. So, for example, it could be that you might attract a new audience. It's a kind of a fresh look at things. It's just a selling point for them, isn't it? It's basically going to sell more copies. That's the bottom line, isn't it? It's going to attract more people. So a column with a Q&A about music. There you go. Perfect. Column with a Q&A about music. So an example I can think of is there was years ago, there was a local paper and it's had a guy called Jeff Criscott in it. I used to call him Chris Jeffcott. No, actually, that was his name. I used to call him Jeff Criscott. There you go. Anyway, he had a column in the paper. I think he was a musician and he used to review demos. I mean, that was in the day when people had demo CDs, but people still do demos, right? So you could particularly if you're in a niche, maybe it might work as well. If you're a folk artist, maybe you want to review folk music or just like general music. It could be that kind of so people send their demos in and you review them. That could be good. It could be Q&A. Yeah, it could be an interview with you. You could be interviewing local musicians. That could be another angle. You could say, well, I'll go to the local town hall or the local venue where they have touring bands through, offer to interview bands and then print it in the paper, take some pictures as well, make it more sellable to them. So let's go back to that idea. Thanks, Lynn. That's not a problem. So let's go back to that idea that what you're doing is providing a service. You're making people's lives easier, right? You're making the editor of the paper's life easier. You're making the journalist's life easier because they need content, right? They need you. They need stories. They need people who are going to be creating content and a different kind of angle on it, right? They can't do everything. So if you're presenting yourself to them, now it might be that, and particularly if you're making a living as a musician, it might be that, being a journalist isn't your big dream, right? So maybe you could do it for free or do it for very little money or expenses, right? But what you're really doing it for is to attract new fans and build up your own credibility, which further down the line is going to pay dividends anyway, isn't it? Because it's going to raise your profile. More people are going to hear of you and you're going to get more work. You're going to sell more albums. You're going to sell more tickets. It's just going to be a win-win all round, right? So that can be another thing that you put in your sales letter, that it's a service you're providing. It's a win-win for everyone. You get something out of it because you're getting a platform to share your knowledge with and your passion. And they're getting someone who's dedicated and passionate and who can attract a new audience. There's no downside, right? So present it like that and be persistent, because don't be surprised. I mean, you think it's a good idea. Don't be surprised if the editor's naturally going to have lots of questions and sticking points. So just make it as easy as possible for them to, so literally they can't say no. Even you could just say, okay, well, let's give it a try. Let's try a 3-month trial or something and then take it from there. So there you go. That's what you can do. So be a newspaper column expert. It could be a magazine. It could be an even online thing. It could be a blog. So I think one would feed the other as well. If you got in print, it might be easy to get a blog, and you can use that as evidence to get the next one. The more sort of forums you get onto, the more you're going to be trusted, and the more you'll probably find people will start inviting you and asking you to come in rather than the other way around. So there you go. That's it might be a good idea as well to go, if you're doing a paper, to go broad, unless you're approaching a specific sort of magazine, a niche magazine. A general paper, to go broad. So instead of saying folk music, maybe you could just say, okay, it will be just music in general. Yeah. And as you get more established, then you could start to put your own influence and your own spin on it. But yeah, go broad to start with, I'd suggest. All right, so hope that's helpful for you. And just a note about what I wanted to talk to you about music. The thing between music, the reason why I'm setting this channel up and the reason why I'm talking about this is because I think it's very important for us as musicians to be practicing our craft, right? So for me, I did that because I'm playing the guitar. So it's practicing our craft, right? To practice the voice, to practice songwriting, to practice playing, to be doing that. And that goes without saying, right? To get that right, to get the music right, and to be getting better and getting more influences and getting more stuff out there. But the other side of it is equally important, right? The business side of it, and particularly the marketing side of it. And that's what I want to talk to you about this, because it's one thing having great music and great talent, but if no one knows about it, then it's not going to get anywhere, is it? And we all know people who are very talented at what they do, not just musicians, but in everything, but maybe they don't get the recognition they deserve. Have you ever thought and asked yourself why that is? It's because more often than not, it's not about talent. It's about how you present that talent, how you market it, how you raise your profile. Okay, and to many artists, you know, that's like a dirty word. You know, selling and promoting yourself feels a bit cold and a bit crass and a bit sort of not what artists are about. But you know, we all need that at the end of the day. The one can't survive without the other. So until you've got you know, someone who's going to sort of pay you loads of money and do it all for you, then until that day, then really we have to do it ourselves. And so I'd really recommend studying marketing, and it's something that I'm sort of beginning at, really. But there's lots of books on it. There's lots of things online. There's people like Dan Kennedy, Jeff Paul. Just one moment. This is the benefit of doing live streams. People knock on the door. Yeah, I'm doing a live broadcast.
Oh.
Okay, well, I came down here because I could hear you upstairs. It was okay. I'll be doing a bit. It's reality. So here we go. This is great, Lynn. And there are plenty of mediocre musicians like me who are making a living out because we're better at marketing than some of the more talented people out there. Precisely. And it's not always talent, is it? We know that. Precisely. That's not how you spell precisely, but there you go. I'm agreeing with you. I am agreeing. So yeah, and Lynn, just before, if you're still watching, could I just ask you please to subscribe to the channel? Just give me click a like button on here on this video, and please make sure you subscribe to the channel, because that's the whole point of this, to build up more subscriptions, more people. And you can, if you click the little bell as well, it'll tell you. Nice one. It'll click the little bell next to it as well, and it'll tell you whenever I'm going to do a new Facebook Live, or sorry, YouTube Live. Ooh, wash my mouth out saying Facebook on YouTube. All right, so there we go. Just to briefly recap, so think about doing a think about approaching your local paper or magazine and say offering yourself up as a columnist. Okay, so you'd be reviewing music, something like that. If you were an author, a local author, you'd be reviewing books. If you're a local painter, you'd be reviewing art. It's, you know, whatever your strength is, whatever your passion is, offer yourself up in that direction. And make sure that you've got a sales pitch ready before you have the conversation. Draft it out a few times and make sure all the points are there so it's undeniable. So basically anyone reading it will go, well, when can you start? You know, to make it so compelling and make it so easy for them to say yes that they can't say no. But be prepared to be persistent as well, because they might just be like that anyway. They might naturally be cautious, and of course be cautious, but there's no downside, is there, really? And at the very least, you're going to get your name out there. They might sort of they'll start talking about you, and then your name's going to be in different circles anyway, so it's a win-win. And thank you, Lynn, for that subscription. And just study marketing. That's what I would suggest. Plenty of marketing books out there. And also people like Tim Ferriss, who does the 4-Hour Work Week. He's got some great ideas on how to present yourself as what they used to call a trusted authority. Present yourself as an expert, when really People aren't experts. They're just making it up as they go along. Most people don't only know a little bit more than the next person. Maybe they read a few more books, but it's the way you present yourself, isn't it? Yeah. So, yeah, so this is the reality of trying to do these kind of things, live broadcast in a house where your partner is asking you questions and doesn't really give you privacy. Anyway, enough of all that. So how can I show you how to do a press release when you can't see my screen? That is the question. So I'm going to do it this way. What I'm going to do is write it down, and would you know it, I haven't been prepared today because the printer doesn't work. Right, okay, let me just try something, and here we go. Let's see if I can print this. It might print, it might not. First of all, we have to turn the printer on. Bear with me. I'm back. All right, let's see what will happen if I print, because I think we're pretty much out of print paper here. But anyway, I hope you're getting something out of this, and it's great that you've got this as a great idea. And I'd love to hear what you're doing, Lynn, because it's saying here that you're making a living it because you're better at marketing. So it'd be great to see what kind of marketing things you're doing. And also, if you've got any more suggestions for doing the doing more of these videos, any titles for things that you want to look at, I'm really happy to do that. So looks as though the printer's not going to work. So okay, we'll go to plan B. And what I'll do is I'll literally just write it out. I'll write out the titles on here, and then you can see it. So how to write the press release. So the first thing you need to do is get the headline. All right. So the headline would be, get a look. So for example, let's see if I can put it on here. Here we go. I can see it here. So for example, local busker Spence Cater has been chosen to perform on an American TV show in New York on April the 30th to sing songs from his forthcoming crowd-funded album. Okay, so I'm reading you from the press release. This is the press release I sent to the Birmingham Mail. All right, and this is, they took it on, and they used lots of this. They used a lot of the text from here in the actual review as well. And that's again, that's making their life easier, because they can just lift things out of here and just put their own little few words on it, and the article's done. And you're much more likely to get your face in the paper, because it's an easy win for them. You know, they've just got to change a couple of words, and there you go. So there you go. So the headline could be something like, and remember we were talking about, you've got to have an angle. You can't be just, you know, local singer-songwriter releases new album. I mean, that's not interesting to anybody really. Why is it, you know, what's so good about the album? What's different about it? Who is involved in it? What are the stories about it? Is there a theme to it? Did something funny happen while he was doing it? Did you get the money from kind of an unusual source? Are you sort of doing a tour of chip shops to promote it? You know, something. What is different about your album? Why should people care about it? Of course, you care about it because it's your music. Your mom and your parents, your family care about it because they love you, and they'll just support whatever you do. But the general public, they don't know you from Adam, and they need something. They need an angle. They need something to get their interest. So think about it from the viewer's point of view. Think about it from somebody who doesn't know you. What excites you? This is a good idea as well. Whenever you see a newspaper report or an advert, or you hear something that makes you want to go, yeah, I'm going to do that. You get your credit card out and you're doing it. Stop a minute and go, what made me do that? If it's an advert, keep a clip of the advert. If it's a news, if it's a headline, keep the headline somewhere, or put it in your phone, or put it in a swipe file. So you've got all these kind of things to refer back to and go, what created that? What emotion did you feel when you read that? Because that's what people act on. They act on emotion, don't they? Whether it's a sadness, or whether it's pity, or whether it's anger, or whether it's, you know, a fun, it made you laugh. You know, what is it? And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create an emotional reaction, not just with our music, but with the way we market ourselves, so people will emotionally respond and react, and hopefully buy. So so the first thing you need to do, right, is the headline. So that's going to be in bold. You need to do that, and it doesn't need to be really longer than a sentence. All right. And then you need to go into a bit more detail. So what I've done here, I've put local busker, Spence Cader, that's me. So again, it's detail. People need details. It needs to be accurate as well. Local busker, Spence Cader, has been chosen to perform on an American TV show in New York on April the 30th to sing songs from his forthcoming crowd-funded album. There you go. It says it all in the headline there. And you might go, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. Want to know more. So it goes on. So underneath that would be, again, write it in paragraphs. So keep it spaced out. Spence, 40, from Hockley, Birmingham, was personally invited by the show's presenter and executive producer, Jimmy Lloyd, to the next recording of the show in the Soho area of New York, right? So again, more facts, but it's the story's unfolding now, right? They initially met in 2013, at a recording of a UK episode of the show, and have co-written several songs together since. Again, all true, but it's starting to paint a picture now. It's starting to give a backstory to the headline, right? Jimmy comments, no, it's always good to have like a sound bite, whether it's from you or preferably from somebody else, because everyone can blow their own horn, can't they? But if you've got something from somebody in there that's like a quote. So Jimmy says, Spence is a supremely accomplished songwriter. His songs are very believable. Any listener can relate to them. So that's a quote that he gave to me. And if you can't get a quote from somebody, or there isn't one there, then ask for it. You know, people are sometimes flattered. You can say, would you be willing to write a few words about me? Would you be able to give a quote? And especially if you tell them it's going to be in the paper, you know, if they're going to be in the paper, they're going to be in the press, they'll be, oh, okay, well, I'll better write something good then, yeah. So get people involved, and you'd be surprised people want to be on board as well. So so how many have we got now? So we've got a total so far. So we've got the headline, and it's very important. What you need to do on the top of the headline is to write in capital letters, for immediate release. All right, so at the top of the header you need to put just that's popped up for immediate release, right? That needs to go at the top of the press release. So so it grabs the headline, and that's just general. Just send that. Okay, like that, and that goes at the top before you write the headline. Then the headline comes next. Let's get this here like that. Yes, okay. All right, so I'm reading off the screen. I don't know if you can see this. You probably can't. All right, so we've got the for immediate release, then the headline, then underneath that we've got it tells you about your name and your age, where you're from, and a bit more about the story, and a bit more of there's another column there, another paragraph, a bit more of the backstory, and then it says, and then put a quote in about 4 paragraphs down, put a quote in. And then it says, Spence, who started busking and playing live shows 3 years ago, has so far played in London, New York, across Belgium, and recently played in his sold-out show in San Francisco. So again, put some proof in there. So a bit of background, a bit of, put your accolades in about the 5th paragraph down. You need to put a bit more about you. So if you've had another album, if you've got an album out, if you've supported an artist, or you've done a headline tour, or you've sold so many records, or you got to number 10 in the Spotify charts, or whatever it is, the iPlayer charts, put that in, put your kind of sell yourself in that bit, in that paragraph, and that 5th paragraph. And then kind of wrapping up, it says, Spence is about to record his first album with top producer and musician Michael Clarke, who recently featured in last year's comedy On the Road, starring Ricky Gervais's alter ego David Brent as a member of his band Foregone Conclusion. Now, that's a bit of a mouthful, but basically what was going on there is my producer was also in a film last year with Ricky Gervais. He was a musician on that film, and he's a session player, so that was interesting as well. So put as many, like if you're writing a pop song, think of the press release as like a pop song. How many hooks can you put in there? How many things can you get people coming back to and go, wow, I didn't know that. Well, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. So try not to confuse the issue, all right? Don't put so many things in that it's detracting from the actual headline, but put lots of things in to support the headline, but lots of hooks, okay? And don't be afraid to sell yourself. Don't be afraid to put it in such a way that it sounds amazing. Obviously, don't lie and do things that you haven't done, because it's pointless, because people will know. But write it up, mark it up, and hype it up a bit. Yeah, hype yourself up a bit. And then finish with a quote from me. So it says, Spence says, to play on this show is a golden opportunity, as Jimmy only selects songwriters of a high caliber. So to be invited to play is a real honor. And again, that's very true, short and sweet and to the point. He's inviting sponsors and supporters for the trip and the album to pledge the link here. So because I was doing a crowdfunding campaign, I put the crowdfunding campaign in there, and it was extra exposure for the crowdfunding campaign. And then you need to put in, at the end, when you've done that, you need to put in ends like this. That's how it ends. And I saw that, Lynn. Yes, future topic. I'd love to hear about crowdfunding for a new album. So I can definitely talk about that. I've done one crowdfunding campaign, and I can talk to you about my experiences from that, what I do differently next time, what I did, which seemed to work. Yeah, absolutely. I can talk about that. No problem. So thanks, Lynn, for suggesting these ideas. It's all helpful and giving you hopefully what you want. And so after ends, you would put your email like this, and then blah 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 blah, and then telephone again, whatever it is, 01 blah 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 blah. Okay, obviously you wouldn't do it like that, but you put your real email address in and your phone number. Okay, so where are we at? We're coming close to the end of this. And then underneath, what I've done is put about Spence. Singer-songwriter Spence estimates that he has played to over 1 million people since he started busking and playing live shows in 2014. His recording music has also been heard by over 1 million people a year, played across chain stores across Europe. Now there's two, I missed that, there's two acrosses there, which I should have noticed that as a, maybe this is the unproofread edition. Anyway, so what you need to do is, what I'll put there is about Spence. So it would be after it's ended and you put the phone number there. So you just put about Lynn maybe. And then underneath you just have a couple of paragraphs about yourself, about your accolades, in two like very concise paragraphs is the word I was looking for. Okay, so I hope that's good. I will, if you want me to send you or display in another way, I can actually send you the copy of my press release if you want to use that and just kind of drag and drop the bits out of it. Happy to do that. I'm trying to find a way how I can do that on here. Maybe I can do it on, once this is posted up, I'll put it under try and put it underneath the comments below, and you can click on it and then use it for yourself. So I hope that's helped. So just to recap then, how to get free PR part 2. So we talked about approaching your local paper and offering yourself up as a columnist or a Q&A kind of person, or an interviewer, some kind of expert in your field. And then we talked about marketing, the importance of marketing, the importance of marketing yourself. Now, it really, you need to be practicing your skills and your chops, of course, but you also need to be promoting yourself. And that's really the difference between an amateur and a professional, is the way you market yourself. Because, there's a lot of brilliant amateurs out there, a lot of really talented people who aren't making a penny out of music because they don't know how to present themselves. And finally, we left with the press release, which is how you would get yourself in the local paper, or how you would approach certainly any kind of album launch, any kind of TV appearance, any kind of tour, any kind of event. You send a press release first. Okay, so I hope that's all been good for you. I'm just reading Lynn's message here. I said, yes, please. I couldn't find any way to send you a message on YouTube, so it'd be cool if you could somehow link it under the video. It's been very helpful. Thank you very much, Lynn. And please feel free, if you have any friends and colleagues who are also musicians who might benefit from this, please feel free to share this with them.